Toyota FJ45. I bought this thing as a project, and really I bought it because I love old Landcruisers. You see, when I was growing up, I went to Moreton Island, as I'm sure you've seen in many of my past videos, and we used to hire a bus from Tangalooma, an old 90s old troop carrier, and it was the first car I sort of found that had a personality. You know, it wasn't perfect, it was like a human. And ever since I've wanted to own one. And this isn't a 70 series, this is a 40 series, which has obviously come from a lot earlier. So this thing's 43 years old, and it's from Gympie, where it's been used as a farm truck. And I think it came originally from Western Queensland. Anyway, it's never stopped. It's been looked after and serviced for that whole time, so that's why I'm able to drive it right now. And as you've seen, it's not in that's reverse I'm trying to get. There you go. It's obviously not it's not roadworthy. That's a given. And the accelerator's a bit sticky, if you can hear that. But it works. It runs, it drives mechanically. It's all good. So anyway, I thought I'd take you on a bit of a tour. We'll park this up, and well, I'll tell you all about it. Well, there it is. That's my 1978 FJ45. So it's got an inline 6 petrol, naturally aspirated, 4.2 litres, about 99 kilowatts of power, plenty of torque. This thing's like a tractor for the road, and it drives like one too. No power steering, no air conditioning, none of that stuff. Basically, the electricity is to power the starter motor, the lights, and the windscreen wipers. Pretty technical for 1978. So for this project, I've actually had to buy quite a few bits and pieces, stuff I wasn't expecting and stuff I was. This little one, this is a little piece from Bunnings. So I just used it in that shop before as a seat. And if I pull this little, so that goes into a little dolly, which means I can then roll under the car. Right, let me just roll underneath. I'll use this light to sort of show you what I'm doing. I might actually grab the camera. It sounds like I'm just saying a spooky story. And let me just grab the camera. And I'll take you on a ride with me. So that's the rear diff, and that's the rear diff housing. This is the prop shaft, which goes all the way along here to the transfer case. So this is what makes it four-wheel drive. There's the front drive shaft, which goes to the front diff, and boy, it gets greasy down there. Gearbox housing, and then oil tray for the engine. To be honest, I've done a lot of degreasing under here, so this is a mess. It's still pretty greasy, and all this I've just tried to clean it up a bit, so every time I come under here I don't have to have an instantaneous shower. Well, I have an instantaneous shower of grease and then water, so it's a good combination. Now you can see here I've wrapped this line with some silicone tape. A bit of a leak there. There are a couple of drip leaks, a couple from the ball joints at the front. You can sort of see there, you can sort of see it on the floor, same on that side. And the front diff's just atrociously covered in grease. And if I point the camera up here, you can just see, up it there, right beside the engine. Oh, the exhaust is hot. I'm learning that the hard way. Oh, the engine's hot too. It's all hot under here. I forgot I've been running it for about 20 minutes. How about we hop out from underneath the car and I'll show you what else I've done. I've actually taken the sides off the tray, which you can see I've put, here's some remnants of a story I'm about to tell you. So there's the sides of the tray there. I've brought my thing I made in year 11, and my granddad made me that. So a lot of the stuff's getting used. I scrubbed and scrubbed and scrubbed, and this is an aluminium tray that was put on the truck in the early 2000s, I'm guessing. And I've scrubbed all underneath and all up here. And I've cleaned the interior. Now most of the gauges in the dials work, and actually most of the switches do as well, as in all of this, yeah, all of the switches do. So this one here, you wouldn't have never seen this before in a petrol car. That's your choke, because this is a carbureted engine, and that's something to explain in a later video. This had the optional extra of Dolby Atmos surround sound, 3D 7.1, so radio sounds good. So the bloke I got it off, his dad painted it gold, so that's why the whole thing, you can sort of tell it's been just painted in gold. Original colour was orange. You can see little bits of remnants of orange. You know, there is rust, obviously I can tell there's rust, but I've looked under the fuel tank. Yeah, this thing was orange. I've already flipped this front guard over, and I need a Toyota badge obviously, so this little white bit was upside down, so it's just four screws, and it came in and out. This thing's like a Tonka truck. It comes out in bits with bolts. It's very simple. You don't really see many exposed bolts or rivets on a modern day car. Get out of trouble with that one. You can see more of just how greasy and oily, old, and what 43 years of hard work looks like. So a lot of work needs to be done, and yes, I know there's holes, there's rust holes, but there's no rust holes in the chassis, this bit. So it's a body on frame. Obviously if you know what I'm talking about, then that's an obvious point, but that just means that the whole cab can come off the chassis, whereas in a car like my Polo or this Caddy, the chassis is sort of built into the body, so you can't really, I mean you can take the body panels off, but you can't separate the body from the chassis. It's sort of all in one thing. I mean, that's for safety, but back in the day, headlights don't work, indicators work. Actually the headlights are the only lights that don't work on this thing. Everything else that electronically works. So this is the inline 6. You can tell it's been looked after over the years. New plugs and distributor and oil filter. I put a new battery in there. It's the radiator, air box. I bought a new air filter. I'm going to buy a new fuel filter as well, and I'm going to change all the fluids at one point. Not yet though, it's going into the mechanic on Monday. That's your carburetor. So that's what's the choke is controlling, as well as the accelerator. So that's your mixture of fuel and air going into the engine. Oh, there's not really much else to show you. Under here the bonnet's nice and light, obviously, which is good. The first time I drove this thing was up in Gympie on a farm, and the first thing I could smell when I jumped in was petrol, and I thought, well, that sort of makes sense because, well, it's obviously a petrol car, and you're actually sitting on the fuel tank in this car, so under the driver's seat is the fuel tank. Yeah, no, I could smell petrol throughout the drive, and I thought, oh, well, you know, fair enough, 43 years old, there must be some sort of, you know, there's just vapors of petrol coming up through the engine, coming up through the petrol tank, and I can just smell it. Turns out the petrol tank actually had a pinhole leak in it, and when I went to fill up the tank, I was only going to put 5 litres in or so, but I thought, oh, may as well. I've already been out to the petrol station, bought a jerry can, filled it up with petrol, 91 octane. This thing could go off 85, lower than that sort of octane. It's a war truck. It's built to run off crap fuel. So I bought the cheapest stuff I could find, and then it was too late, and I found out that there was a leak. I could just sound the car. There was drips. There's like 3 or 4 drips. So I set up a few buckets to catch it, and I ran across the street to Sydney Tills, and I bought a shaker thing to try and siphon the fuel out, took the driver's seat out, took the petrol tank out, emptied it, and I went up to Northgate and got the petrol tank repaired. The bottom of it got cut off. It had already been botched and patched. It looked like 5 or 6 times. So, you know, this fuel tank was on its last legs anyway. And the only replacement tank I could find was one for $1,200, which is a long-range fuel tank, and that would go around the whole, underneath both seats, so the driver and passenger seat. So it'd be like a 110-litre tank. I mean, that'd be great. But $1,200 is a lot, and I was able to get the tank fixed for half that price, which is pretty good. Got chemically dipped, the bottom of it cut off and replaced, and painted, and pressure checked like 3 times. So thanks Greg and Christine from Fuel Tank Radiator Service. That was great, and also shout out to Red Devil Radiators for checking it for me, which was great. Couldn't find a replacement tank, the one that's the same or a replica. There's some place in the United States that do it, but they're all out of stock, and you know, it was all too expensive and hard anyway. So this is the best way to do it, and yeah, that's the fuel tank story and problem. And I feel like that's how most of this project is going to go. I'm going to start doing something and go, oh geez, look at that, and then fix something else, and then fix something else, and fix something else. Because when you look at a project like this, you sort of think, well, where the hell do you start? So much so, I've been to John Faulkner Motor Trimming to have a look at the seats, because these things are torn up and worn. There's actually like a sheepskin cover over it. He's quoted me to recover the seats, and he recommended I go to this place called Alpine Automotive. And what he's going to do is he's going to write me a list to check off to get it to roadworthy spec, which is really what I want to do with this. I want to get it up to roadworthy. Anyway, so at Alpine Automotive, they're going to write me a list that'll take 4 years to check through, and then I'll be on the road, which will be great. The dream is to get this thing on Moreton Island. 3 seats, big tray, it'll be great. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed watching this video of my new car. I haven't bought it for the investment, but it is a classic car, and you know, a good one of these could be worth $60,000 to $90,000. So if one day I ever want to sell this thing after doing it up, I could probably make quite a bit of money from it, which is good. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.